You know that moment when you wake up one morning and suddenly everything feels completely hollow? Your job that used to excite you now feels like a stupid game you're forced to play. The people you love feel distant, like actors reading lines. The dreams you've been chasing seem ridiculous and fake. You sit there staring at your life thinking, why am I even doing this? What's the actual point of any of it? Does anything I do truly matter? This isn't just having a bad day, though people around you might think you're just depressed. No, this is something far more powerful and strange. This is what happens when you finally wake up from the big lie everyone's been living. This is when you start seeing through the massive game that society has tricked you into playing. This is when all the fake meanings you borrowed from the world around you start crumbling, and you're left standing there, facing the brutal, honest question, what is the point of being alive? Now here's the thing. Most people freak out when this happens, and they react in one of two really messed up ways, and honestly both ways will destroy you. The first way is total panic mode. They feel this crushing sense that nothing matters, and they run like hell from that feeling. They distract themselves with anything they can grab. They create brand new meanings, fresh goals, shiny purposes to chase. They dive headfirst into their careers, into romantic relationships, into political causes, into alcohol or drugs or shopping or scrolling. Literally anything to avoid sitting still with that terrifying feeling that maybe, just maybe, nothing actually matters at all. The second way people react is they just give up completely. They accept this pointlessness as the ultimate truth. And they sink down into this dark hole of despair. They think, well, if nothing matters, then why should I do anything? Why get out of bed in the morning? Why shower? Why talk to people? Why care about anything? They become totally frozen and paralyzed by the very truth that could have actually set them free and made them come alive. But listen, I want to show you a third way, a totally different response that's honestly revolutionary, if you can wrap your head around it. What if this feeling that everything is pointless isn't actually a problem that needs fixing? What if it's not a disease or a crisis? What if it's actually a doorway, an opening into something much bigger? What if isn't the death of meaning, but actually the birth of real authentic meaning for the first time in your life? Break this down for you. When you feel like everything is pointless, what you're actually discovering is that every single meaning you've been living for is completely made up. They're invented. They're just stories that humans told themselves because they were scared of the emptiness. And look, there's nothing wrong with stories. Stories are beautiful. But when you finally see that they're just stories, that there's no universal truth backing them up, something incredible happens. You've seen behind the curtain. You've realized that meaning isn't something you find lying around like a rock. Meaning is something humans create, something we make up. And once you see this clearly, you can never go back to innocently believing that your career or your marriage or your mission has some deep cosmic importance written in the stars. The magic trick stops working. The illusion shatters. And yes, this feels absolutely pointless at first because you've lost all those meanings you were borrowing from outside yourself. Society told you success matters, family matters, making money matters, being attractive matters, leaving behind a legacy matters, and you swallowed it whole. You took these hand-me-down meanings and built your entire life around them like they were solid ground. But now you've seen that these are just agreements, just collective fairy tales that humans decided to take seriously. And once you see how random and arbitrary these meanings actually are, they lose their grip on you. They can't control you anymore. And yeah, this creates a huge empty space inside you, a terrifying void, a feeling that nothing matters. But here's the secret. This void isn't the end of everything. It's actually the beginning. You see, as long as you're living by meanings someone else gave you, you're not actually free. You're like an actor who got so lost in their character that they forgot their acting. You take the script deadly seriously because you think it's reality, because you think it matters in some absolute universal way. But when you realize it's just a script, just a story someone wrote, suddenly you're free to play the role differently. Or pick a completely different role. Or throw away the whole script and write your own. This feeling of pointlessness is actually you recognizing your freedom for the first time. It's that moment when you understand that you don't have to live by anyone else's rules about what matters. You're completely free to decide for yourself what's worth your time, what's worth caring about, how you want to spend your short, bizarre time on this floating rock in space. But right here is where most people screw it up. They think that because nothing has built-in meaning, they now have to create meaning, to force meaning onto a meaningless universe. So they go hunting for their purpose, their passion, their big mission. They think they need to figure out what their life is supposed to mean and then commit to it like a religion. But this is just another trap, another prison. This is taking that feeling of pointlessness and covering, gee it up with a new story, a new meaning, a purpose you invented yourself. And sure, this might feel good for a little while, but it's really just another game you're playing, just another clever way to avoid the deeper truth that's staring you in the face. Here's the deeper truth, and it's going to sound strange at first. Life doesn't need a point. Existence doesn't need justification. You don't need a reason to be here. You don't need a purpose you're supposed to fulfill. The question, what's the point, is built on a false assumption, on this idea that there should be a point, that meaning is something life owes you, like a debt that needs paying. But what if life isn't a journey towards some destination? What if it's not a problem waiting to be solved? What if it's not a story that needs a happy ending? What if life is more like music or like dancing? Think about it. You don't listen to a beautiful song just to get to the final note. You don't dance just to arrive at a particular spot on the floor. The whole point of music is the music itself, right now, as it's playing. The point of dancing is the dancing itself, the movement, the feeling. It's not going anywhere. It's already complete in each moment. In exactly the same way, the point of life is simply living, simply being here, simply the wild experience of existing. Not for anything, not toward anything, but as its own reward. This very moment exactly as it is. This is the point. This breath moving in and out of your lungs. This sensation in your body. This thought floating through your mind. This feeling in your chest. This is it. There's nothing else you're supposed to get to. There's no achievement waiting, no higher meaning to discover somewhere down the road. When you really get this, when you truly understand that life doesn't need justification, something absolutely magical happens. That heavy feeling of poi, endlessness, transforms into something completely different. It becomes lightness. It becomes freedom. It becomes playfulness. If there's no ultimate point, if nothing you do has cosmic significance, then you're totally free to simply enjoy being alive without carrying the crushing weight of having to make it all mean something important. You can work at your job without needing it to be your calling or your identity. You can love another person without needing them to complete you or fix you. You can chase goals without needing to actually reach them. You can make art without needing it to be important or remembered. You can play the game of life with total intensity and passion while knowing deep down it's just a game. This is what I mean when I say pointlessness is a doorway. It's the doorway out of taking everything so seriously, out of the exhausting burden of trying to make your life matter, out of the tiring project of constantly creating meaning and purpose. On the other side of that doorway is a type of freedom most people never ever taste. The freedom to live without needing life to be anything other than exactly what it is right now. Now, this doesn't mean you become lazy or you stop caring. Actually, it's the total opposite. When you're not crushed under the weight of making everything meaningful, you're way more free to dive into life completely. You can throw yourself into whatever you're doing with total abandon, not because it matters in some grand cosmic sense, but simply because it's what's happening right now, because it's the shape life is taking in this moment. Think about a little kid playing in the dirt. That kid isn't worried about the meaning of playing. The kid isn't asking themselves, what's the point of building this sandcastle? The kid is just totally absorbed in the playing itself, completely present, completely engaged, and then the game ends. And the kid moves on to the next thing without any feeling that the game needed to have lasting purpose or deep significance. This is how you can actually live when you walk through that doorway of pointlessness. You can jump into life fully and passionately, and then let it go and flow into the next moment, the next game, the next experience. Nothing needs to last forever. Nothing needs to be ultimately meaningful. Everything can be enjoyed and savored for exactly what it is in the moment it's happening. But what about the big scary questions, right? What about death? What about pain and suffering? What about the fact that everything you do will eventually be completely forgotten, that everyone who knew you will die, that the sun will explode, the universe will end in heat death, that nothing you create will survive forever? Doesn't all of this make everything pointless? Only if you believe the point of life is to leave a permanent mark, to build something that lasts, to be remembered after you're gone. But why should that be the point? The sunset is breathtakingly beautiful, and then it disappears. The flower blooms in gorgeous colors, and then it dies. The ocean wave rises up magnificently, and then crashes back down into water. Nothing about these things being temporary makes them less valuable, less beautiful, less worth seeing and experiencing. Actually, it's exactly because things are temporary that they're precious and meaningful. If the sunset lasted forever, would you even bother to stop and look at it? If flowers never died, would you treasure them? The bittersweetness of life, its heartbreaking beauty, comes from the fact that it's fleeting, that each moment happens only once and never again, that everything is always disappearing even as it's appearing right in front of you. So when everything feels pointless, when you look at your life and can't find the meaning you thought was there, this isn't a crisis or a breakdown. This is an opportunity, maybe the biggest opportunity you'll ever get. It's your chance to stop living for some imaginary future point, some goal or achievement or legacy, and to start living for the pure fact of being alive, for the immediate raw experience of existence happening right now. What should you actually do when everything feels pointless? You stop asking what the point is. You stop trying to justify your existence. You stop trying to prove your worth. You stop trying to make your life matter to the universe. You just live. You breathe in and out. You eat food. You walk around. You talk to people. You do your work. You play. You love whoever's in front of you. You create things, not because any of it means something in the grand scheme, but because this is what life is. This is what's happening. This is the dance you're dancing right now. And in this surrender, in this letting go of needing meaning, you might discover something that surprises you. You might find that life becomes more vivid, more immediate, more intensely alive when you stop trying to make it mean something. Colors look brighter when you're not obsessing over their significance. Food tastes more delicious when you're not worried about its purpose. Relationships feel more real and intimate when you're not using them to fill an empty hole inside you. The pointlessness, when you really embrace it fully, becomes this incredible freedom. It's the freedom to be completely here, totally present, totally engaged with what's happening without the mental overlay of meaning, without the heavy weight of significance, without the exhausting burden of purpose. Let me share an old Zen story that shows this perfectly. A young student comes to an ancient master and says, "Master, I've read every spiritual book. I've practiced meditation for years. I've thought deeply about all the great questions, but I still don't get it. What is the meaning of life? What's it all about?" And the master looks at him calmly and says, "Have you eaten your breakfast this morning?" The confused student says, "Yes, I ate." The master says, "Then go wash your bowl." That's it. You see what happened there? The student is desperately searching for some grand cosmic meaning, some ultimate purpose written in the sky. But the master is pointing directly at the simple fact of living. Eat your breakfast, wash your bowl. This moment right here, this activity, this simple fact of being alive and doing what's in front of you. This is it. This is everything. There's nothing else hiding somewhere that you need to find. Nothing else you need to finally understand. When everything feels pointless, this is exactly what you do. You eat your breakfast. You wash your bowl. You do the next thing that's in front of you, not because it has grand meaning or cosmic importance, but because this is the form life is taking right now in this moment. You're here. You're breathing. You're alive. And this is what being alive looks like right now in this particular moment. And slowly, if you stay with this, if you don't run back to desperately searching for meaning or sink down into dark despair, you start to notice something shift. You start to notice that the question itself just dissolves like sugar in water. What's the point stops being a question that makes any sense. It's like asking what's the point of a sunset, or what's the purpose of a mountain, or what does a river mean? These questions are nonsense because these things don't exist for any reason beyond just being themselves. They're not tools for something else, they're complete in themselves. And so are you. You're not here to accomplish some mission. You're not here to fulfill a destiny. You're not here to make your life add up to something meaningful. You're here because you're here. You're alive because you're alive. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's actually everything. So when everything feels pointless, celebrate it, dance with it. You've seen through the game. You've figured out that all those meanings you were chasing were just stories people made up. And now you're free. Free to live without the crushing burden of making it all matter. Free to enjoy the sunset without needing it to teach you a lesson. Free to love without needing someone to complete you. Free to work without needing it to define who you are. Free to just be alive for absolutely no reason at all. This is the great liberation that comes from walking through the doorway of pointlessness. On the other side, you discover that life was never about having a point. It was always about the living itself, and the living, the raw fact of existence, is its own reward, its own meaning, its own point. Thank you for listening.